Today I am taking a look not at a board game, but at a book from a game designer. That is Steve Finn. This is Dr. Finn's book of solo strategy and word games. A bunch of games in this book that can be played solo. In fact, 8 games in total. All you need are some dice and a pen or a pencil. So let's take a look at all the games and then I'll come back and give you some of my thoughts. So here we have the book set up. As you can tell, it's not a typical board game with a board and a lot of components or anything like that. It's just a book and it's got 8 different games in it that you can play solo. All you need is some dice. I have my whole set out here, but you need a max of 4 dice. So that's all you need. And then a writing utensil, just a pen or a pencil. We're going to go through all 8 of these games and just take a quick look at them, starting with Cosmic Run Mission 1. So here we have Cosmic Run Mission 1. This has a very Space Invaders theme to it where you are moving along these tracks. These are your tracks down here. These are the solo modes tracks up here and you're trying to reach these planets the fastest. So you will roll dice and on your turn you will assign those dice. To move on this planet, you just have to go in sequential order. You know, if you get a 1, you could fill in that spot right there and then keep going on the track. If you want to go up on the other planets, you have to either get 2 of the same number dice, 3 of the same number dice, or 4 of the same number dice. And if you can't assign dice to any spaceships over here, then you can assign them to your allies over here. And that's going to give you special abilities that you can use at any time when you're assigning the dice. Like if you want to re-roll a die, or, you know, flip a die, or adjust a die a number, turn it to any value. If you put one there on the ally spaces, you can circle one of these spots, and then that's available for you to use later in the game. But you're just trying to reach these planets the fastest. If you get there first, say you get to this planet first, then you would get 12 points, and you'd write that right there in that box up there. If the solo mode reaches that planet first, then you will subtract points based on whatever marker you got to. So say you got to the 10 here, but you didn't get all the way there. Well, you're going to subtract 10 minus 12. So you're actually going to get negative 2 points for that particular planet. Same thing here. If you know, this is worth 15. If you got to the 6, well, 6 minus 15, you're going to subtract that and then write the negative up there in that space. If, for any reason, the solo mode reaches a planet and you have not made it to the first marker on any of these spaces, then you automatically lose the game. And you're just trying to get a high score, beat your own score in a lot of these games, and that's the case here. So you'll just total your score up at the end, and there's a handy little score sheet in the front of the book that shows, you know, what a good score is for all of these games. So you just check your score against that, write it in one of the boxes, and then you know, can play this again or move on to the next one. So that's Cosmic Run Mission 1. So here's the second game. It's called Pen Pals, and what you're doing in this one is at the beginning of the game, you're going to roll dice and draw buckets out here on this little grid in these even or odd spaces. And what you're trying to do is get one bucket in an area with a group of animals and then enclose that entire area. So you can see here for areas with exactly one bucket, you'll score based on the number of animals and if that's the same animal or if that's different animals. So there's different strategies that you can use in this game. You're going to roll dice on your turn and then assign them up here on this part of this sheet. So say you roll a 3 and a 4. Well, you could use the 3, and then since you rolled a 4, that would be an even number. You could cross one of these two off, or you could go in the reverse. You could say, okay, I'm going to use the 4 for these particular space up here, and then I have a 3 that's odd. I could use this one or either this one. Then you'll cross that off. The game lasts 12 turns, and you're just drawing these lines and these patterns out here on this grid. All the lines have to connect to another line in some way. So once you've drawn, you know, your first one, everything basically has to connect to that in some way as you go throughout. So at the end of the game, once you've done all that and drawn all of these out here on this grid, you're going to score it up with the different buckets, total your score, and then see how well you did. So this one is called Word Wrap, and it is one of the word games in the book. And what you are doing is you're going to roll a die and then draw these various patterns out here in this kind of, you know, word area. Again, they all have to connect as well. And then you're going to write the letters that are in that pattern in these spaces down here and try to make words. So maybe you know, roll a 2 and you draw this grid right here and you have an X, a T, an L, and a D. Well, you have to put all those in these spaces somewhere down here. If you make an actual word, then you will score points for that word, very much like, you know, you do in Scrabble. But if it's not an actual word, you're not going to get any points for that word. Then you go through at the end of the game, you see how many actual words you made, if you get any double bonuses for letters or for possibly the word in general, and then you write your total score at the bottom, and that's that one. That's word wrap. Next up is My Perfect City. This is another game on a grid where you're going to be rolling dice and then picking patterns out down here to draw on this grid. And this is kind of a things need to go next to other things type of game, or in certain areas of the board. This was very similar to like a roll and write type game, I felt like, where you're trying to get these various things up here: government center, banks, forests, houses, and apartments, all in certain areas on the board. And then you're going to score points for how you've placed those things out at the end of the game. So depending on which dice you roll, you're going to go ahead and pick one of these patterns to draw on the board. You cannot rotate the pattern in any way. It has to be drawn as it is displayed here. And then at the end of the game, you total up your score, again, checking to see the score sheet at the front of the book to see how well you did. And then you're just going to try to improve upon that game after game. So if you like constructing a grid, if you like the game Cartographers or like a Tetris type game, you'll really enjoy this one. This is My Perfect City. So this is Leftover Letters, another word game in the book. You're going to have 2 dice in this one. First, you're going to roll those dice, see what the combined, value is, and then write that letter in one of these spaces on this grid. Then, after you do that, you're going to roll those dice again, and you're going to use these on these rows and columns to cross out particular letters that you don't think you can use to maybe form a word. Then what you are trying to do is write words in these spaces down here. Same thing, if it's an actual word, you'll get points for it. If it's not, you will not. You've got some 2x letter scores here that you will get points for, so you're trying to keep that in mind as well. Another beat your own score game where you're just going to total up your words at the end of the game, see what your score was, write it on the sheet at the front of the book, and then see if you did good or if you did very poorly. Again, I did very bad at this game. I am not good at word games in general. This one was very tough for me, but again, if you really like word games, I think you would really enjoy this one and be good at it, but I was not. This is Leftover Letters. So this is the Little Flower Shop Open for Business, and this is basically an auction game where you are trying to sell things at the highest price, but the price is going to be constantly changing throughout the course of the game. So you have 4 dice, you'll roll them all, you'll choose 3 of those, and then you'll circle those items up here at the top. They could be all the same item, they could be all different. Then you're going to roll 2 dice, and you're going to circle their corresponding spaces down here for market prices. So you can see, these start at a value of 1 that you sell for each one, but then go up to 3 and then back to 1 and then 4, and that's how the game will go throughout the course of the game. So then after you've done that, you have to sell all of one particular item, all the ones that you have circled at that point. So again, your goal is to sell high. So say maybe you have, 3 of these circled and the price is $3, well then you would get $9 for that, and you'll write that in this box right here. You're going to play till you get to the bottom of here and then figure out your total money that you've made, your total sales, and then that is your score for the game. You also have the ability to re-roll 3 times throughout the course of the game, and at 2 different points in the game you'll pick a custom order down here, and if you fulfill that requirement you will get that money at the end of the game as well. So if you have, sell 5 different items at the end of the game, you would get $15. If you can sell 2 different pairs based on the items you have left, you would get $9, and so on and so forth. This is the hardest one. This is the easiest one to achieve there to get that extra money at the end of the game. But that's the Little Flower Shop Open for Business. So this is Spell It Out, and this is another word game. You're going to have 2 dice. You're going to roll them, and then based on their values, you're going to go down here to this area and pick letters to write into this grid up here. So if you roll a 4, you could pick any of these letters and write it in any of these spaces. Your goal here is to make words, and same thing with the Scrabble-like scoring. If it's an actual word, you'll get points for it at the end of the game. If it's not, you won't, and the values are on the various letters here. So once you write your words in, you're going to go through at the end and see what your total score is. So like for this 4 spaces right here, that would score right here. This is only going to be 2 letters of a word, a 2-letter word, and that would score right there. And then you go through all these spaces and figure out if it's a word or not, and then figure out what the scoring is for that word. Write your total score down there, and that is the game. That's Spell It Out. The next and final game is Crunch the Numbers, and in this one you're going to have 3 dice and you're going to roll them, and you're going to use 1 die for each of these 3 grids based on what you roll. And these grids have various requirements that you're trying to meet in these spaces. Like in this particular row, it wants all the dice to be even, and if they are, you will score 1 point for that. In this particular column, you want the total value to be less than 12 of all the numbers that you write here, and you get 2 points for that. So you're going to go and roll your 3 dice, fill in 1 in each grid wherever you want to, and then do that, until all of the grids are full. Then you will see what your total score is. You also have some abilities in this game as well. Say if you complete this where all the numbers are not the same, then you would get this adjust ability, and you could, adjust a die up or down by 1. You also have a reroll and a flip a die as well. So that is this game, the number game in the book, and this one is called Crunch the Numbers. So that is an overview of all the games in this book that Steve Finn has created, the Book of Solo Strategy and Word Games. So now let's go back. I'll tell you which ones I liked, some of my favorites in this Book of Solo Strategy and Word Games. So you've seen a quick overview of how all the games in this book play. Now I'll give you some of my thoughts on this. My first like is that obviously this is designed with 1 player in mind. This is a solo board gaming YouTube channel. So I appreciate that fact that there are 8 different games in here that are designed for a solo player and work very well at, a player count of 1. So I really commend Steve Finn for that, for designing some great solo games here. Another thing that I like is that all of these games have very easy rule sets, and they're all pretty fast. I think the longest one was maybe 25 or 30 minutes, and that was me really thinking about it. That was definitely one of the word games. I'm not good at word games, so those I really struggled with in terms of trying to do well, and it took a lot of thought. But if you're better at those, you'll probably be faster at that. But for me, that was the one that I think took the longest, one of the word games. But overall, really quick games here. They also don't require, any setup at all. It's just the book. All you need are some dice and a pen or a pencil to write with, and you're good to go. So I really appreciate that as well. It works great if you want to take this on a trip, if you're somebody that travels a lot for work, if you don't have a lot of room to play games. This also works well. You could just sit down at a table or in a chair even and play this and have some fun with it. So all of those things I really appreciate about this book of solo games. Now let's talk about some of the games in particular. I definitely had some favorites, and looking at the titles once again, I just want to make sure I get them right. So some of my favorites here from this collection are definitely Cosmic Run Mission 1, The Little Flower Shop Open for Business, Pen Pals, My Perfect City. I enjoyed all of those. I thought those were all really well designed and really well done. Again, I struggle with the word games, so the word games were not some of my favorites, just my personal taste, but if you enjoy word games, I think you will really like those. The Crunch the Numbers game was also a lot of fun as well. If you're somebody that really enjoys Sudoku or something like that, I think you will like Crunch the Numbers. And overall, there's a really nice variety of games here. I like that Steve decided to kind of do a couple of different styles of games. You've got your word games, you've got a number game, you've got some, draw like a grid out and enclose things type games. You've got a lot of different variety here in this little package, which I really appreciate, because if you don't like a certain game, you can just go to the next one and try that one out. And they're all easy and they're all pretty quick. And again, they don't require a ton of setup either. You just read through the rules. There's also videos for all the games, like rules videos that Steve has done. So if you have any questions, you can just go and watch those. But overall, a really nice collection of solo games here. I think for me, if I had to pick an absolute favorite game out of this bunch or a top 2, it would definitely be My Perfect City and the Little Flower Shop Open for Business. I really enjoy city planning games, and so trying to organize all of those things on that particular grid and put them in certain places, I really had a lot of fun with that one. And the Little Flower Shop Open for Business is kind of like a market game, a buy low, sell high type situation, which is hard to manipulate in a one player environment. Normally you need, multiple people to try and make that work, and people that you're competing against to sell your goods at the highest price possible. But Steve has done a really nice job here of just by using dice to manipulate those market prices. So I thought that was a really clever game design, and I really enjoyed that one as well. Now let's move to my dislikes just real quick. My only real negative, again, are just the word games. I'm not good at word games, so I didn't enjoy those as much. I found myself struggling with those. Some of those were really hard. I'm just not good at taking a group of letters that are kind of randomly generated or arranged and turning them into a word. I just don't do well with that. Again, if you're somebody that likes word games, that enjoys Scrabble, that enjoys other word games, Wordle, something like that, you will probably love these. But for me, those ones just didn't click as much. But all the other games in here, though, I thought were really well done. There's a nice variety. It's great for a solo player. It works well if you don't have a lot of space. And I like that this is just a solo collection of games in this book. I don't know if Steve's going to do more of these or design more of these possibly, but I would definitely be interested in, another volume or two of these to have a really nice little collection of quick playing solo games that I can just play anywhere with just some dice and a pen or pencil. So overall, a really, really nice collection. You can purchase this on Amazon. I'm going to leave a link to it in the description down below if you're interested in checking that out. And I really enjoyed this collection, especially, I took it on vacation and had a lot of fun with it just because it was so easy to play on vacation. So there you go. That's my review of Dr. Finn's book of solo strategy and word games. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe. That really helps out the channel. Until next time, I'm Jared. You've been checking out Specifically Solo.